The term toxic masculinity isn't new, but it's gotten a resurgence with the Me Too movement. You know, when you attach the word toxic to anything, an alarm goes off, and in this case, it should. There are versions of masculinity that are professionally and relationally demeaning. They're culturally destructive. And even though some of these guys are just too self-absorbed to see it, these twisted versions of masculinity are personally debilitating. Toxic masculinity is real. It's hazardous material, and you cannot cover it up with a boys will be boys blanket. Now the question is, what do we do about it? Well, clearly we need to call it out when we see it. But the culture needs to be shifted so toxic masculinity automatically reveals itself. No tolerance policies and legislation can begin to turn things around, but you can't just flip a switch because a real culture shift takes time. Now, the danger in conversations like this is an extreme reaction that overcorrects and leads to the opinion that, well, any discussion about manhood is just toxic. Well, this implies that the solution is just to round up all the men and have them neutered. Did you know that one definition of neuter is to render ineffective, to deprive of vigor or force? And there are some who would say, well, that's exactly what needs to be done. Negative experiences have so distorted the idea of manhood that it's just difficult to imagine that there's actually a healthy version. The cure for toxic masculinity can't be contained in a few paragraphs, but it can begin with a recalibration to what manhood was originally intended to be. Men need a clear and compelling definition of real manhood. If not, they'll aim at the wrong target, or they'll aim at nothing at all. And if you aim at nothing, you're going to hit it every time. Either way, it leads to confusion, disappointment, and pain. And we've learned that confused, disappointed, and hurting men create major problems for themselves and for others, even hurting those that they love. And most men just keep their struggles to themselves, and they won't ask for help until the damage is too great to correct. Now, the best definition of manhood comes straight from the source. It's God's original design for men. The Bible presents a tale of two men. The first Adam from the book of Genesis, and who it calls the second Adam, which is Jesus. The first Adam was totally passive. Instead of accepting responsibility when he sinned, he tried to blame it on his wife. He was missing in action as a leader. He made choices based on his own comfort and this warped idea of significance and success. Now, that's toxic masculinity. But in every area that Adam failed, Jesus was successful. So, he is our model for authentic manhood. And as we look closely at his life, we discover four things. Real men reject passivity. They accept responsibility. They lead courageously and invest eternally. Now, the problem is, if you look at this definition through the grid of conventional manhood, there's some strong leaders who might assume that because they're successful, well, they've at least got the first three of those covered. And there's some church leaders who might think that since their mission is about investing eternally anyway, well, they can check that one off too. But we don't reject passivity at the expense of the dignity of others. We accept responsibility, yes, but we don't steal responsibility from others and render them useless. We lead courageously, but without suppressing and pushing people aside. And truly investing eternally, that doesn't mean ignoring the present. Now, when we get this right, men will begin to live for something greater than themselves and discover the life of truth, passion and purpose they're created to live, shifting the culture and helping us recalibrate to manhood as God intended it to be.